What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Two Young Pastors podcast. My name is Elijah, and I am joined by my co-host, my friend, my partner in ministry, Jajuan. Jajuan, we just gather together in case it's your first time listening. We just have conversations of what the Christian lifestyle looks like in this culture, and we give a pastoral perspective on it. And we just want to be a resource, be a community, be a conversation starter in case you need it with somebody and answer questions as well. Jawan, we're in the middle of summer, and in the summer, at least here in the Allegheny East, it gets busier. In other
Yes.
areas, it tends to slow down a little bit
Yeah.
because church is a community, and when communities enter summer, there's vacation mode, and it gets slower.
Yeah.
Ministries start to slow down, but in the Allegheny East, it tends to pick up.
Yep.
And by pick up, I mean camp meeting, bro. You've been over at Camp Pitch. What is Camp Pitch, man? Well, first, how are you doing? You've been in Camp Pitch for about 2 weeks now. How's your body, man? How's your mental state?
Good to see you. Always good to see you, man. And we haven't actually been able to talk over the past 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And things have been good like altogether. I preached this past weekend at my church, talked about pride, and it was a good word. It was like
Mm,
I think there were so many nuggets, right? If individuals actually want to like approach this topic of pride, like there's so much for you to consider from what God revealed to me and what God showed to me. And so it was good being back because the week prior, to your point when you said that things get busy, not just Camp Pitch, but graduation season can be extremely busy
that's true.
for pastors. And it could be busy because you want to show up for a number of people. And so, like, I had some personal graduations and my private life, like Janelle's brother graduated from undergrad from Morgan. And then, and so I missed church that weekend. And then
Mhm.
the next day had to celebrate with my younger brother. And he graduated from Stevenson University.
Wow.
And so that was a very busy weekend. And then
Yeah.
after I finished that, went into work mode. And so, one of the elders on our pastoral team, her son he obtained his doctorate, his
Whoa.
JD. And so there was a celebration at her home. And so was just traveling. And then that night I had to go back up to Pine Forge Academy in Pennsylvania, Boyerstown, Pennsylvania. Okay,
Pennsylvania.
this is the Bonies. Okay, this is not city life. This is the Bonies. Okay,
Mhm.
and so very busy indeed. And to your question of what is Camp Pitch, Camp Pitch is pastoral slavery. Okay, it is pastoral slavery. I don't care what no one says. I don't care what no one says. But no, no, no. On a good note, it's really a great opportunity for individuals to be able to get to know, and build camaraderie with other pastors while doing manual labor for the conference. We
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
we help set up tents and other odd jobs. We do other odd jobs as we prepare for in May Pine Forge Academy graduation, and in June camp AEC Allegheny East Conference camp meeting.
Mhm.
And so we are the consistent hands who help with the miscellaneous things that come up. And every year we always say, man, maybe someone else can do this. Maybe if we
Right.
hire some people, they can do this. Yet I recognize that so much of what we do really is just odd jobs at times. It's
Mhm.
really just odd jobs. And so it's like, who are you really going to hire to do some of the odd jobs that we do? And because it's like, you're probably going to just have to hire people for their time, not for their expertise.
Not for the the skill sets, yeah.
But because we end up doing so many different things. Yet, these past couple of weeks been good. There's always this main pavilion
Mhm.
that the older folks that they worship in, and we actually have the task of preparing it for the worship services that take place there. So we have to power wash the floor, the ground, which is always it's
A
always
task.
and the reason why it's always a task is not just because it's so much space, but because there are only two power washers. Okay, and we're not using like I don't want to say even state of the art because you don't have to use state of the art things, right? But there are some power movers, like because we use
Mhm.
wands, but there are actually movers because we looked it up because we were like there has to be a more efficient way than this than just doing it this way. But and so we looked up Elijah and we saw that there are like movers like
Yeah.
that would make it much faster,
Easier, yeah.
like a lot more convenient, right? And we're just like, hey, it really is like just it could be between 2,500 to $4,000. And we're talking about keeping this for a long time. We're talking about keeping this
Yeah.
for a long time. And so it could really be something convenient, yet we recognize that nothing is ever really convenient all the time. And so what makes power washing inconvenient is not only the space is so large, but everyone becomes an expert, a power washing expert. Like, like we're talking about a whole bunch of men coming together, and a whole bunch of leaders, alphas coming together, and everyone having a good idea and everyone having their own way of doing it. And when you start doing it one way, someone comes over, hey, you should do it like this. When you start doing it that way, a third person comes over and says, hey, maybe you should do it that way instead. And so you try to incorporate both things, and then you have like this fourth person who comes up and it's just like, no, 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 squares. I want to see squares.
Right.
Squares. And the reason is because we all know that it takes forever. And so for the individuals who are kind of sort of like wanting it to be over, you're just like, maybe they're moving too slow. But when
Yeah.
you're not actually using the wand, you don't understand why we're moving that slow. We're moving that slowly because we can see dirt that someone with our back can't see.
I see,
I
yeah.
actually used this illustration when I preached this past weekend, and it
Really?
real good. Yeah, we growing as preachers. But anyway, that can make it interesting. But even after we power wash the ground, we then have to make sure that we place over at least 1,000 seats down every time. Okay.
Mhm.
And so the power washing can take a day. And then putting the chairs down can take a day.
Mhm.
Because we're not just putting the chairs down in any way, but we also have to make sure that it's lined up.
Mhm.
And the lines, like the chairs are properly lined. Like there aren't any guidelines, like really for the chairs. Like there's the outline area for where you have to put the chairs in, but there aren't lines to show you. All right, put the chair here, then put the
Right.
chair here,
Right.
then no. So what you can have is chairs starting off straight, and then by the time you get to the longer lines, it starts off straight, and then the chair line just starts to warp down.
For someone that's, like, starting to listen to you right now, they're like, "What the heck is this guy talking about?" Because they're just like, first of all, power washing and then chairs. It sounds like it sounds like we're like the maintenance staff on campus,
Yeah.
and then if you haven't done it before, you're just thinking about how mundane it might sound, but when you have what, I would say 8 people, like 8 to 12 people that are all well versed in leading out different groups of people, all loosely told to do what to do,
Yes.
and not really how to, you have a lot of opinions.
You have a lot. You have a lot of opinions, bro. You have a lot of opinions. And here's the reality. Like you got some younger guys and then you got majority older guys. And what ends up happening is that as you get into the summer, Like we got hot summers and we got humid summers. It's not
Yeah.
just hot, but it's also humid. This ain't dry heat. This is wet heat, okay?
Mhm.
And so that drains you. And of course, it wasn't the issue here, but every year, without fail, at the by the end of camp meeting, everyone is tired. Everyone wants to go home.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to be with their families. And because everyone is tired, everyone wants to go home. Everyone wants to be with their families. It is so easy for people to get like annoyed with each other.
Mhm.
Like things that typically didn't annoy you, they annoy you at that point.
Yeah.
Like if you were feeling any type of way about another person throughout this entire experience, like the things that you could just brush off before, like nah, you can't brush it off at that point. And
Yeah.
so there are some
Yeah.
times where we got to have some manly conversations, some manly
Yeah.
interactions,
It's like,
you
why do
know.
they get on the truck that way? It just becomes like
Why does this person make jokes?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But what's amazing about it though is that it's a perfect segue into what we wanna talk about to it in this episode
Ooh,
particularly, right? Is that
Ross, how are you doing? What's going on
oh,
in your life? Before we segue,
yeah.
what's going on
I'm
with
good.
you? How are you?
I'm good, man. Celebrated a birthday, this past week, and,
30 is almost here, man.
30's almost here. 30's almost here, man. It's different, but I'm excited. Um, the church caught me by surprise. I was doing our pastoral spotlight, and then I was about to end it, and then our first elder just walked up on stage, and I just have a good poker face now, right? So like when he walked up on stage, it was on the script. When he walked up on stage, I was like, and now our first elder had something to say. And then he walked up and then he said, Pastor Sally, you have a great poker face because you have no idea what's about to happen right now. And
Mercy,
then and then,
mercy.
he said happy birthday, da, 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 and I was like, thank you so much. So it's just great to have a wonderful church family that that is loving and considerate as well.
Mhm.
And um uh, when I first started out at church, I did not know if I could be left alone as an assistant pastor at church to operate by myself.
Yeah.
And by God's grace, it's gotten more and more easier. And this past Sabbath was like probably the easiest in terms of like your lead pastor preached, Doc Frazier, like
He did.
killed it. The entire house was up.
One of his best ones, man.
The entire house was up. We were all like, "Whoa!" Um, and
But like that sermon, like that thing, woo, that thing goes.
feed him before you fix him. I was like, "Whoo!" Like that, like it was good. It was good. The entire church loved it, loved him. His wife and their group Clay played before. Just awesome service.
Awesome.
I'm trying to think through what else might have happened, but he did a great job. He does not know that I'm dating someone, and what's so funny is that every time he has come through the Capitol Hill, he has always said at the beginning of his sermon, like, "Thank you, Doc Peeler, for inviting me. Great mentor in ministry, da 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 da." And then he said, "Pastor Stanley, it's a privilege watching you grow. And right now, you're incomplete, but we're waiting. We're waiting for the moment of completion for you. And and we know that you're single right now, and we're gonna hook you up. We're gonna hook you up real soon." He did that the first every single time he's preached, he's did that. This time around, I was dating someone, and I am right now, and you hear behind me my young adults go like, "He's taken, he's taken, he's taken." And then and then he's trying to go on, right? And then he looked back, he's like, "Oh, y'all also on that?" And then, like, he's like, and then they're like, "Yeah, like, he's taken." And I was just dying laughing, but
Yeah.
he's a great guy. He's a great guy, like,
Yes. Yes.
great guy, great guy.
Yes. Yes. When I got engaged, like he had this whole plan to like really do the most to announce it to the church.
Really?
Yes, yes. The only reason why he didn't is because I injured my back. It's because I injured my back.
Mhm.
But he, yeah, I love that guy, man. Big brother for days. Big brother indeed. Big brother
Yeah,
indeed.
yeah, yeah. Smart, intelligent, and a good leader too, man. And we were talking about how his time over at Metro has been, and he said that he's enjoyed it and he's enjoying like the new season in ministry, bro. Yeah, yeah,
Not all churches can be like Metro, man. It's a
yeah,
blessing indeed. It's a blessing
yeah,
indeed.
yeah, yeah.
So,
But talking about good friends though, man, like we actually started this in a previous podcast, about talking about friends and
yes,
talking about how sometimes friendships end, and how friend breakups hurt too,
they
right?
do. They do.
Like they hurt. Even this past, I'm not sure. Like, okay, first of all, okay, look, I talked to I talked to my close friends, and they were like, "Bro, like you're giving out a lot of confidential information, on the podcast that they were like, we didn't know that you'd share all this stuff with everybody."
Yeah,
And they texted me, and then I said, "Hey, like I'm gonna recant and 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 say, it didn't happen, but they all did happen." And what I've noticed is my friends were or someone that says, "Hey, it'll take a lot for us not to be friends anymore."
mm,
And when I asked them the question, maybe like a few weeks ago now, like, "Hey, like, what would it take for us not to be friends anymore?" And the bar was super low. It was like you'd have to like murder somebody, and not have like a good
reason.
valid reason, yeah. Or like you'd have to do like some crazy things,
Yeah,
right? On like the side of a spectrum that is like is crazy beyond even murder. It's like, hey, like why would you? And like I want nothing to do with you anymore.
yeah,
And they're like outside of that, they're like we could pretty much come back from the brink, if you're not legitimately crazy. And I said that's a pretty low bar for like friends. And I'm I'm okay with that.
yeah, yeah.
With like good friends. But like what does it mean, bro? Like to cut someone off? Like what does it look like in
What does it mean to cut someone off? I mean, immediately it means that like all the communication, all the content from those communications, right?
Mhm,
It goes bye bye.
mm,
Like the closeness that you may have had, the familiarity that you may have had, the frequency by which you talk to certain people, it all goes down. It all
yeah,
goes down, and possibly even away. There's even situations where some people get cut off and they don't even know that they got cut off. But we're not talking about cutting a person off in a conversation. No, we're talking about cutting a person off and like relationship altogether. Typically when you cut a person off, it means that like friendship is gone, relationship is gone, or at least it's diminished, because you can cut people off and still maintain contact. But for me, it typically means that like the closeness, the intimacy, the intentionality that was once there, it drastically um decreases.
yeah,
What would you
yeah.
say?
Man, so I actually looked it up,
Okay.
and here's exactly what I found, okay? What
Yeah.
does it mean to cut someone off? You have the gradual fade out,
Okay.
right? So you have the gradual fade out where you go from calling to texting and then just saying happy birthday, and then even after b and then even if that it's over, and it's like, "Oh, you got married?" It's
I
like a
don't
gradual fade out. It's like a
I don't
gradual fade out.
I don't think that's cutting off. I don't think that's cutting a person off.
Okay, 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 okay.
I think
So
that's too
here's
far. I think it's too far. I know you
it's
looked it up. Do you agree with that? Do you agree that that's cutting
I don't think
based on how we typically use the phrase
no.
cutting people off? Why
it
not?
it it's not because cutting off is you making a decision in your mind
Mhm.
and saying, "This is not a friendship I want to continue to have." That's a cut off. This is a It's a decision that you're making unconsciously, I guess, to not to reach out to that person anymore.
Mhm.
But the way that the author of this article wrote it is that if you're not brave enough to have a conversation, this is an option you have to cut someone off. Is
So I want to say that's what this person said. That sounds more like ghosting than it sounds like cutting people off.
Mhm.
Like I think when you ghost someone, like you now ghosting might be too hard, too hard.
This is like a unintentional cutoff. Like you're unintentionally doing it, or you are intentionally doing it, and the roadmap is, hey, like I might have called you once a month. Now I'm gonna text you
Yeah,
maybe the first 6 months and then not text or follow up anymore.
yeah,
And then that's it. If you don't want to have a conversation, because the next one is having a conversation where
yeah,
you ask the person out or you say, "Hey, I need to talk with you about da 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 da," and you sit down and you have that conversation. You say, "Hey, I don't want to ultimately pursue a a friendship with you in the sense of like we can just be acquaintances now. Like I don't want to really follow up and it's closure for you." And then not ghosting that person and figuring out where you might be with that person. I think so there the way that the way that the person broke it down is you can either fade it out gradually, you can have a conversation, or you can take a break, or you
okay,
can end things immediately as different ways to cut people off
yeah.
in a healthy manner, which means that there are unhealthy ways to cut people off. And before we even go to the unhealthy ways to cut people off, why even have a conversation? Like, why do you cut people off at all would be my first question. Like, why would we need to have a category of cutting people off, Jawan? Like, why do we need to cut people off?
So I think when you think about cutting people off, I think like there are examples even in the Bible of people like ending relationships, right? One story that comes to mind um is New Testament, Paul and Barnabas in Acts, right? They were getting ready to go on another missionary journey,
Mhm.
but they had like this crazy disagreement, and like it wasn't even a disagreement about themselves, each other, but it was actually a disagreement on another person. See, Barnabas wanted to bring John Mark on to this next missionary journey, but Paul, he disagreed. He said, "Listen, Barnabas, I don't think you understand. John Mark is not about that life.
Mm.
Like he abandoned us. He abandoned us in the last missionary journey that we had. So what makes you think that he's not going to abandon us and desert us on this next one?"
Yeah.
And so what we find is that like they end up going separate ways. And Elijah, this ain't the type of culture where they got phones where they can still call each other like a couple of days later and be like, "Hey man,
I'm sorry. Yeah, yeah.
I was bugging. I was
Yeah.
bugging." Like no, when they went their separate ways, they had like they it's hard for them to see or to know, hey, where are you going? If I
Right.
if I did want to apologize, if I did want to reconcile, like where can I send this letter to?
Right.
And so like we see even examples of like people like essentially cutting relationships off in scripture.
Mhm.
And like we see it happen typically over disagreements,
Mhm.
and people disagree on different things. Some people disagree on things that they have done. Some people disagree on things that people that they're associated with have done.
Mm.
And I think that like we find that this is a thing. Like, of course, going back once again, back to November. On Facebook, on Twitter, like on Instagram, on Threads, there were individuals who were legit saying, "Hey, if you voted for Trump, like
That's true.
unfollow me,
Yeah.
unfriend me."
Yeah.
Why? Because they had disagreements on people who they associated with. And
Mhm.
so for me, bro, I see that some individuals, they cut individuals off based on disagreements, and especially based on disagreements of who you are associated with. But what about you, man? What are some reasons why you think that individuals end up cutting people off?
Man, so 100% you're right. Like, it's difference of opinions. Again, I think it might in most cases, especially with people unintentionally cutting people off, it's something has changed in your life where they're no longer with you as much.
Yeah.
So what I mean by that is you either go to a different school, like in high school, right? If you change from one high school to another, you basically don't have contact with your friends from the other high school as much anymore because the physical landscape around you has changed. You're in a whole different school now. So that just makes sense where your circumstances have changed. I've seen some others where it's just because you're in a whole different city now, right? I'm one of those people where it's easier for me to keep in contact with people that are around me physically. So, like, if you're outside of what I normally do, it's hard for me to keep in contact with you just because of the busyness. So, increased distance would be one, and then also, man, it's hard to be friends with people that just bring chaos into your life. Like, it's hard, man, to bring people and maintain relationship with individuals that bring chaos. Like every moment you have around them is just chaotic.
Problem.
Problem,
Problem.
problem, problem.
Tomato, tomato, tomato.
And again, bro, the Kiki movie, bro, her friend is the
One of them
same
days. One of them days.
is one of the friends that I always think of now of like she should have cut her off at the very beginning, bro.
Yeah.
At the very beginning. Like she is someone that's a prime example of cut off material
Hmm.
of like, hey, this is someone that watch this like she genuinely was in a friendship with Kiki. Like she had the best intentions for her,
Yes.
right? Like why do we cut people off? It's never because of their intentions. I think it's multifaceted, right? Like she
Yeah.
generally cared for her, but her actions, regardless of her
And
motivation, right, always brought her down.
yeah, the intentions aren't the only thing that matter. Impact also matters, and that's a lesson that's hard. That's hard to learn.
Mhm.
That's a major lesson. That's always hard to accept, and always hard to possibly even communicate to people. And so, like, listen, we got a bunch of reasons as to why individuals cut people off. But I have a question.
Yeah.
Like, because cutting people off can get messy. But my question is, do you think that we always need a good reason to cut someone off? Like a good like does it have to be your friend like you did murder someone? Like does it have to be that far? Does it have to go that far for you to be like,
Nah.
I don't think I want this relationship anymore? Like,
Yeah, like, again, distance can be a valid reason. You're like, "Hey, like, you're too far away from me," but does that need to have or be a conversation? I don't think so. Like, if you moved from, let's say, like, from Baltimore to, like, San Diego, right? I don't think I would sit down with you and be like, "Bro, like, you're gonna be out of my physical distance and my day-to-day life. I don't think this is gonna work out anymore." Like, I'm not gonna like, I'm not gonna sit down and do that. Like, what will probably end up happening is we'll text each other and call each other and catch up, right? But I don't think that needs to be a cutoff time. I think there are other valid reasons outside of murder and and crazy things to be like, hey, like you just don't values, bro, values. Your values can
Good.
change.
Yes.
R-
Hear me here. Like, once again, I don't see, because even all right, that situation, right? I don't know if like reaching out less means that you're cutting someone off.
Yeah.
I just think that it means that like the nature of your relationship is changing, you know?
Mm,
Like I think because we change, I think the nature and how we relate to our friends and how we connect to our friends will also often change, especially like once you get into a relationship, like you really pour a lot of your energy into that one.
yeah.
And if you're not deliberate, you're not going to be pouring energy into the other ones. Like there's a reason why a lot of men are lonely. Okay.
Mhm.
Like a lot of us don't reach out nearly enough. And I believe I touched on this concept in the last episode, or a previous episode. But like I've learned even more that there are statistics that show that a lot of men like are lonely,
That's true. Yeah.
and they're getting lonely because of the fact that they're not connecting with their people
Hmm.
as often as often as they can. And so I I think I think cutting a person off does not equate to, oh, because you live far away,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna reach out as much.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know? Um I will also say this. I don't think that there's a good reason. I don't think that I don't think there's a bad reason that you would cut a person off, right? I don't think that there's a And so, yes, you you always need a good reason. You do always need a good reason to cut a person off. Because if you just stop talking to a person out of nowhere, it better be good. Like, because that can follow you, bro.
I
Like,
think like it
one
depends on
thing
how close you are.
like is weird. Like,
It depends on how close you are. Like if you're close to someone and then you just go out and then never interact with them again, that's for me a bad reason. Like if you're already not close with somebody like that, right? Like go ahead and fade it out,
okay.
right? Because you're not close to them already.
But the question is, did they do something that made you say, huh, I'm good. I'm good. Like, I don't need that in my life.
Not all the time, right? Like I know like I had close friends in high school, and they didn't really do anything to me. I just life was just different. So they're not really cut off. And I think this is the difference that you're saying, right? It's fading out is different from cutting off. Like cutting off is a intentional action you do based on uh it's a response to something,
Yes.
right? So it's a response to whatever your friend did. What's up?
I did. I I actually did cut off high school people.
Really? What happened?
Like when I went to college, I think I said, I'm done. Like with most of them.
A clean cut?
Yeah. Like there were a few individuals that I was like, if we reconnect again, I'll be cool. But I think I told myself, I'm not reaching out to y'all again. Like I'm moving on, you know.
Wow.
And here, but there's a good reason. I didn't like myself with them.
Mm.
I didn't like who I was when I was with them, you
Mhm.
know? In addition, I don't think that we had the same values, you know?
Mm. Mhm.
Um, I think I was like the only believer, and understanding that I'm going into ministry,
Mhm.
right? And I got friends who kind of sort of live certain lifestyles that are just n- not in alignment with that at all.
Compatible, yeah.
I was just like, we're going to get into way too many arguments,
Mhm.
way too many disagreements. you know. And I don't think I knew how to properly. I don't think I knew how to properly be in a space with them at the time, with that type of disconnect.
Mhm.
Now, I'll also say, I don't know if I can be in a space with a person today who is an unbeliever and say like we're close.
Mm.
I don't know if that can make sense for me.
Mhm.
And the reason is because I don't know. We don't have the same start point
Mm.
for a lot of our values. Like I anchor what I believe in my faith.
Mhm.
And so for me, it's like oh, I can see, and this often happens a lot of times. I can see an individual saying something rude about believers and Christians, you know, and me like being like, I don't like that.
Mhm.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Like, and because a lot of people who end up being atheists, they end up being bitter towards
Better.
Christians.
Yeah.
And it's just like, yo, you don't gotta say that.
Mhm.
Like, you don't gotta do that. That's a lot.
Yeah.
And so
I'm
I
with
don't
that.
even know if today I could actually do that
Mhm.
personally. And so
Yeah.
for me, I think there has to be a good reason
I'm
I
with you
think
on
there's
that.
always a good reason why you cut people off. And I don't think it has to make sense to other people. Like it only has to make sense to you. It only has to make sense to you.
To a certain point. Yeah, where, like, if your close friends are like,
You're right. There are
"Hey."
some immature people. There are some immature people. So it does
Yeah.
need to make sense. It does need to make sense. Yes. I'm sorry. I
Yeah.
spoke too.
Like, I 100% understand that there are some things that only you can feel and you can understand, right? Like, "Hey, like, the way that you said that made me feel this way," right? Like, those are I statements. "I felt this way." 100% agree. But if someone tells you, "Hey, from the bottom of my heart, I did not mean to say it that way, and I did not mean to offend you," right? And you still take that extra step to cut them off because of a comment that they didn't mean a certain way, I feel like we might have to sit down and examine your level of what's the word? Um, your, uh, level of taking things personally, right? Like, "Hey, like, let's."
I agree. I agree. I agree.
Yeah, like, let's sit down and understand what happened. They didn't mean it, right? If it happens again, you'll have a more you'll have a better footing to cut someone off. Again, this person has to be close to you, right? So when we're talking about cutting people off, right? It doesn't really mean acquaintances in my mind. It
For
means, yeah, it's a friend. It's someone you're in pretty much consistent contact with, not constant, but consistent contact with, that their presence out of your life is noticeable and
yes.
you've shared some stuff with them. If we're talking about cutting those people off, you need to have a good reason to cut that person off. And
Yes.
if it's not a good reason, I think your other friends should challenge you. And I think it's like, what do you gain when you cut someone off? Like, what are you gaining? Is it your peace of mind back?
Mm,
Is it your security back? Like, there are some friends that put you in dangerous situations,
yeah.
right? Like, do you gain your safety back? Like, what are you gaining when you cut this person off? Is it a net positive? Is it a net negative? Bro, something that I read is we need to bring back seasonal friendships.
Hmm. Hmm.
And what I mean by that is
Tell me more.
is seasonal friendships are the friends you make at work.
Yeah.
The seasonal friendships are friends you make either at a certain church at a particular time, and they fit a certain need you have, whether it's to network, whether it's to be young parents with. Right?
Mm,
Those are seasonal friendships. And those are not the friendships we're talking about when you're talking about cutting people off, right? Those are seasonal friendships that help you to get through a certain chapter in life. And then after that chapter of life, it's okay not to keep in constant contact with them
that's good.
because they helped you out through a certain part. And guess what? You helped them out through a certain part of their life. And then if you have a chance to catch up with them, it's okay to catch up with them. We're talking about the friendships that either you grew up with that is in your life right now. We're talking about the people that you're like, "Hey, you're gonna be in my wedding party. Like,
Mhm.
you're gonna get an invitation to my wedding." Those are the people that we're talking about that you might have to cut off people from. But Joanne, has there ever been a point where it got where you had to cut off someone and then it got messy?
So, I want to say, no, no, I've never cut a person off and it got messy. Like the only time that I've intentionally cut an individual off who were like my friend group was high school. Was high school. You know, I legit stopped reaching out. Like, and I know like there were a few times in college where they like reached out, and things like that, and it was all good. It was cool. But they were the individuals who were reaching out, you
Mm,
know, because I was like, once again, I'm good, and I don't have any bad blood or anything like that. My viewpoint is just that I'm different,
mhm,
and I don't think that we need to be in the same space. I don't think that we need to occupy in each other any type of space and in each other's lives.
mhm.
God bless you, you know, and so no, it never got messy. It never got messy for me. It never got messy for me, but I do realize that it's messy for a lot of people, right? And I recognize that it gets messy for a lot of people simply because of the fact, bro, that like some individuals don't go about cutting a person off in the right way, right?
Mm,
Like what I've learned is that when individuals cut people off, a lot of times, one, I've learned that many of us are afraid of confrontation.
mhm,
Like we don't confront things very well. And so rather than possibly needing having conversations that need to be had so that individuals know like where they stand in your life, like you'll talk to everyone else except for the person.
mhm,
You'll talk to like your girl, if you're a guy, your guy, if you're a girl, you'll talk to your family and you'll tell all of them, yeah, I think this person's doing this, I think this person's doing that. I'm not really feeling it anymore. But the reason why it gets messy is because a lot of people don't have that conversation.
yeah,
And then even for the people who do have the conversation, they don't necessarily know how to communicate what's actually happening inside because they don't know how to communicate or speak truth to their emotions and their feelings a lot of the times.
mhm.
And so I realized that it gets messy. And it gets messy because a lot of times, we messy. We messy. We messy. We
It
messy.
just like I'm 100% with you. I think recently I've been cut off and I didn't know.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah, I think I got or I think I got cut off and I didn't know. Now I can't say exactly what it was,
Can you
and
can you can you be messy and share with us? Not the person, but
it's too fresh. If I
the type of relationship that y'all had beforehand. And you because you can't just say, I think I got cut off, and then like go cold on us. Like
I honestly don't know what happened, bro. I
the
thought
person might end up watching this episode and it might be the opportunity for them to have the conversation with you.
bro, I honestly don't know what happened. Like, I thought we
Okay.
were close, but apparently we're not. And
Jeez.
and but to be honest, I 100% get so, like, if I share exactly what it was, it's gonna be too obvious, um, uh, to
Yes.
to
Understood.
everyone I know. Now, again, my close friends know exactly what I'm talking about because we just
Yes.
had this conversation. Um, but it seeing it from the other perspective,
Yeah.
it's always good to have a conversation. But
Yeah.
but also, I think it
Wait, wait, pause, pause, pause,
yeah.
pause, pause. I know you can't share everything, but you said you think that you just got cut off.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know if you can explain this, but what makes you think that you just got cut off?
There you you think that you would be able to be with that person on on days.
You
I'm
said
being very vague on purpose.
you said you think that you would think that you would be able to be with them.
Like if you were to celebrate your birthday, right? And who who
I
was
didn't
at your birthday party
I wasn't. For all the people out there wondering, Jajuan Sanders wasn't um at
at
his uh,
mine?
at his birthday celebration this year.
Wait, mine or yours?
Yours. I wasn't at his birthday celebration this year. Everyone, I just want to put it out there. He invited me to one 2 years ago, and he said, "Never again, never
That's
again."
not true at all. It was literally
There
4
was a lot of
people.
racism that took place that night, y'all.
My
Like, I got asked the question, "Is your father in your life?" It was crazy, y'all. It was crazy.
Again, I am so sorry.
I'm just Elijah was like, "I am never bringing these two worlds together ever again."
Like, it was no, I wa like, they're gonna
Together.
come together again, but,
Okay, I'm joking. Let's get
like,
back on. Let's get back on task.
usually, your you see who your friends are, in the big moments of your life, right?
Yeah.
So when big m moments happen, and when some people aren't there, you're like, "Oh, I didn't know that y'all weren't that close," right? So it was like, "Alright, cool." I what it helped me, and I think this might help someone else, is, like, there are 2 ways that you can take being cut off. Number 1, you can take it either personally and be like, "Nah, like, I'm not gonna interact or do that stuff anymore," right? Like, there's 2 ways that you can take it really, and then the other way is like, "Oh, now I know how to operate."
Mm,
Like, now I know where I stand, and the generosity that I had before, I can dial back.
yeah.
And it really brings back a clarification of maybe I'm looking at certain friendships more than they are,
Mm,
right? So when we're talking about seasons ending and having seasonal friends, is having a clear mark, hey, like, be over generous in the friends that are pouring into you and that are doing life with you. And when you cut people off, it helps you to better, talking from like a pure materialistic way, right? Better allocating resources to the friends that you know matter and matter to you and you matter to them. So
mm,
like the experience kind of helped me to like figure out, hey, like I don't take things personally, which I think is good.
that's good.
But in realizing that I don't need to be as generous as I am, that it's all right to invest in your close friends,
Mm,
and then have an outer layer that hey, like if you're there, you're there,
yeah,
and if you're not, it's not gonna mess up my life anymore.
yeah, that's good. That's
Yeah.
real good. And can I want to ask you a question to that point. I want to ask you about um is it ego?
Mm,
Do you think that some individuals can't handle critique?
100%. That's how it gets messy, bro.
Okay, okay, talk a little bit more about it, because like a- as you were like talking in my head, I was like, it seems like this might be like some ego stuff, and like not being able to take critique,
Mhm.
and because you can't take the critique, then you get offended, and but because you took it personally, But I want you to talk a little bit more about it, bro.
I think it's 2 things, right? Like, Ego, I think for most people is the main reason that they take having a conversation like, "Hey, like, you made me feel like I was inadequate when you said da da da," or, "Hey, I explicitly told you not to talk to that person," and then you wanna talk to them. So it's holding someone accountable to their actions that they're like, "I don't wanna be held accountable to my actions." And for me, that's not a friend I want. Like, where we can't hold each other accountable to our actions and to our words,
Yeah,
right? So, my friends hold me accountable, and I hold them accountable as well, right? Of making the best decisions as possible, and if ego gets in there, you're not gonna have a lot of good friends because it's just you're putting yourself above them, and a good friendship is is having that great balance of self-care and putting that person above you at times as well.
that's good.
That's a that's a dynamic of a good friendship,
Yeah,
and if you can't have that, then you're gonna be surrounded with acquaintances and seasonal friends, and then when those big moments in your life come, you're gonna have a hard time picking out who to invite because you're like, I'm not really that close to anybody. Like no one has journeyed with me long enough in life for me to invoke and then call you up to speak about me
yeah,
because there are people that only know a fraction of who you are. I'm lucky, and I think you're lucky as well to have people that have known us in different seasons, right? That can.
yes.
Mhm,
I agree, and it's always interesting when like individuals who've known me longer, especially in certain contexts, like they bring up things that like used to happen. It's just like, dang, I didn't even know,
mhm,
or I forgot that that happened because that's just not me anymore. You know, I think I've
yeah,
said that before on here. It's just like, all right, we don't got to talk about it anymore because like that's just not who I am, and
yeah,
I don't really care to relive the past. Um, but yeah, man, I agree. What as you were talking, what came to mind is just like there are so many of us who are really insecure about like relationships,
mhm,
in any way, and we're insecure about like ourselves. You know, the truth is that many of us have parts of ourselves that we don't understand and that we wish we had answers for.
mhm,
And there are times when we hurt people. You know,
yeah,
like I don't think there's any human being who can say that they've never hurt anyone. We all hurt someone at some point, whether intentionally or unintentionally. And you know, I've learned that sometimes, you know, you're apologizing, not necessarily because you meant it, not because you intended to cause harm, but you're apologizing because you understand the impact
mhm,
that it had that it made on the person.
mhm,
Um, and so it's necessary. But the thing that can help you apologize is just humility, you know, not making it all about you, but also recognizing that, hey, the person who's in front of you or the people who are in front of you,
mhm,
their feelings, their thoughts, their
yeah,
contributions matter just as much as yours. And you are not at the center of the world. And so, because you're not, you know, others have to be considered so that you know their the sacredness of their lives can be honored. You know, I
mhm,
hope that wasn't like too much like,
mhm,
but no, it like no, and because I really see it that way. I recognize that like, especially in my life, the times where I did not honor the viewpoints, the times in my life where I did not honor the ideas or the feelings of other people. What I was really saying is that I don't honor your sacredness,
mhm,
and the worth that God has ascribed to you. And so I realized that if I don't honor you, and if I don't see you on the same level as me, um, and what I mean by that is if I don't think that you matter holistically as much as I do, and when I say holistically, I mean if I don't think your feelings matter as much as mine matter, if I don't think your experience matters as much as mine matters, if I don't think your perspective matters as much as mine matters, if I don't even think your opinion matters, even if it's incorrect, and I know that it's incorrect, if I don't think that it matters and it's valid, you know, just as much as mine, you know, that's pride. And that's a problem right there. That's a problem right there. And so I'm recognizing and I'm realizing that there are so many of us, if we really want to, like, let's say, cut people off, if we want to cut people off, right? And and make sure that it does not get messy. Truth is that we need to make sure that we are able to truly have the tough conversations with ourselves so that we can make sure that we're properly stewarding the tough conversations that we have with other people. Because I'll say this, some people need to be cut off, some people don't need to be cut off, right? Not all people who are cut off need to be cut off, but how you cut a person off matters so much. Why? Because every moment is a teaching moment. And so, even in you cutting a person off, there could still be like a restorative or redemptive aspect to that, where you're able to like paint the picture and say, like, hey, I noticed some bad characteristics here and there. And I personally can't handle that. I can't handle that. Or and I can't associate with that. And so I think that you should work on that versus the individual who just cuts and does not talk to the person ever again. Because the first example is, even though you're not associating with that individual on such an intimate level, you're at least giving them like a key to help them grow versus the second person where you just said, nah, deuces. And unless the person caused you harm, unless the person has is just extremely narcissistic and like completely and utterly void of listening to your opinion and listening to your perspective, I think that there are some individuals who, when they're at their lowest, they can truly receive the words that you have to say to them. We just have to be individuals who not only think about ourselves, but we also think about the other individual at the same time. And I hope that makes sense. I hope that makes sense.
It does, it does, it does. As you were speaking, I was thinking about cutting off is a example of maturity,
Mm,
right? Like, when you're able to successfully cut someone off, it's you realize who you are, what values matter to you, and the people you want around you, right?
yes.
And you're saying, "Hey, you as a person are great, hopefully, but you're not someone that I want to grow with in life." And whatever that reason might be, navigating that conversation is a sign of maturity where the other person realizes what it is. And what I think I had to understand is that it's never a negative thing the other person might have done. It could be as simple as your goals in life no longer align. And you're
Mhm.
like, "Hey, like, I wanna be around people that will allow me to achieve my goals in life."
Yeah.
And you're just one of those persons that, hey, like, our goals no longer align. And even the Bible, right, like, talks about how even bad company, right, can corrupt good morals. So if you're thinking about who your close friends are, where they are right now is where you'll end up being and what their
Mm,
mindset looks like as well.
that's good.
So you really wanna have that mature conversation. Sometimes it's just having a hard talk, man. Having a hard talk, and not taking it personally when they have that conversation with you, right? You can either take it personally or you could say, "Hey, I can either grow in this and I can change in it." And I love what you talked about, that redemptive process. And the final thing, bro, is people have ended their relationship with Christ, either because they don't believe in him anymore, as a deity, or um, even in the Bible, right? People have ended their relationship with Christ, like the rich young ruler, right?
Yeah.
Said, "Hey, I got as much as I can from you,
Yeah.
and outside of that, I'm not interested in what else you have to offer to me." Right? I think it's that type of a mindset as Christians, it's okay to have.
Mhm.
It's never a give and take relationship, but there are seasonal relationships that we need to end.
Yeah.
And in those outside of those where we have communal relationships and you can always go back to is okay. But I think if you're thinking about, well, where do I start to cut off? Look at yourself first.
Yeah,
Look at yourself first. See where you are, and don't just arbitrarily. Well, they don't make me feel good, so I don't want them around me. That's a hard conversation to have, in my opinion, bro. That's a hard conversation to have. You don't make me feel good, so I can't really talk to you anymore.
yeah.
Mm,
And can I say this? L- Learn conflict resolution before you resort to cutting someone off, right? I think that if you can wrestle, because the best of friends are friends that can wrestle, right? Friends that can disagree on things, and friends that can rebuke each other on certain things. I think that those are the best of friends.
mhm,
Um, and so I think that what makes those friends so good is that they know how to like contend with each other and resolve issues that come up, and they not only know how, but they're willing to do it. There are some individuals who just aren't willing to contend and go through like the difficult process of having tough conversations, you know. And
mhm,
so I recognize that like we have to be individuals before we settle for, and I want to say settle, because when you cut people off, you are essentially settling.
right.
Um, Before we settle for cutting off, let's see if we can at least like contend through conflict resolution with our friends. And
Mhm,
to your point, I think you do that. I think you do that by contending with yourself, because there are so many things that we have conflict with concerning ourselves,
mhm.
things that we don't like about ourselves, or things that if we really reflect, we can see, oh, that's not a good characteristic.
Yeah.
Like, and having to tell yourself that's a flaw that you have, that is humbling. That is humbling.
Mhm.
But it's also necessary so that when another person says it, you're not surprised. You're not caught off guard, but you're just like, you're right. And it's received, and I'm working on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, so yeah. Um, so I think that that's it. And so the final question: should 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 Christians, should believers ever cut anyone off?
100% yes.
Okay,
100% yes. 100%
I agree.
yes.
I agree. I agree.
If I mean, you can look all around the Bible, bro. There are relationships that God tells us not to go into, which means that if you've entered into them, there's might be an expectation of you exiting out of them.
Yeah, that's good.
It's,
That's a word. That's a word.
uh,
That's a word.
y- uh, I think I heard this phrase when I was in college, like, "Hey, I'm a dating missionary." And I was like, "What the heck does that mean?" And they're like, "I date non-believers to bring them into the church."
That's stupid.
I was like, first of all,
It's
I
dumb.
I don't know where to start with that one, bro. They're like, "I'm a dating missionary," and
God
yo,
bless.
I don't really talk. I don't really talk to them anymore.
Of course. Like, I'm not surprised.
Where do you
Like,
even have? It's all right to cut someone off as a Christian with
yes,
honor and love and integrity, right? You have to have all those qualifications: love, integrity, and ghosting is something that I don't think y is something that you should not be doing as a Christian.
yes,
Ghosting does not honor the other person. If you're wondering why, uh, we we say you should not be ghosting. It does not honor them.
all right. And we'll summarize it with this, because some individuals might be saying like, well, this is your opinion,
Mhm,
on should believers ever cut someone off. But here's what the Bible says, because we're in the book. We're in the book. This ain't
mhm,
this ain't just us, but we're in the book. Matthew chapter 18, verse 15. We referred to this before. But it says this, and reading from the New Living Translation, it says, if another believer sins against you, go privately and point out the offense.
mhm,
If the other person listens and confesses it, you have won that person back. But if you are unsuccessful, take one or two others with you and go back again so that everything you say may be confirmed by two or three witnesses. And so you see, like, cutting a person off is not the first option. Like, if someone does something to you, or like if they offend you, it says if they offend you, right?
Mhm.
And the offense doesn't necessarily have to mean that they cause harm to you. They could have caused harm to someone else, but it offended you and you have a problem with it. And so you go to that person,
Mhm.
that friend, and say, "Hey, you did this. I didn't like it for these reasons." And if they receive it, you've gained your friend back. If
Mhm.
not, if not, they don't say cut the person off at that point. The Bible
Right.
doesn't say, Jesus doesn't say cut the person off at that point.
Right.
Jesus then says, "Hey, maybe get a mediator, maybe get a third party, who can be more objective than both of you can,
Mhm.
and see what they say, right?" And it says this in verse 17: if the person still refuses to listen, take your case to the church. Of
Right.
course, the church was the authority at this time. It says, then if he or she won't accept the church's decision, treat that person as a pagan or a corrupt tax collector. And so for us today, because we're believers, we can do the same thing.
Mhm.
Like, if you're a lay member and you have a problem with another person and you brought in the friend and it didn't make sense, then go to the church, go to the pastor, go to the elder, even, like, and see, hey, like, see what perspective they can offer, see what wisdom they can offer.
Mhm.
And then it says, listen, if none of that works, treat the person as a pagan
Right.
or corrupt tax collector, meaning you don't talk to them at all.
Yeah.
Because the tax collectors were individuals that the Jews, they didn't mess with them.
No.
And so Jesus saying, hey, there are times when you cut people off,
Yeah.
but there's a process. There's a process. And so cutting a person off really doesn't mean that you're settling.
Mhm.
Like, if you do it first.
Mhm.
But if you've done all that you could do based on Jesus's recommendations, you're good with cutting a person off.
Yeah.
So that's what happens. That's what
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah. Yeah. And we would love to know any stories that you have of cutting people off, the good ways, the bad ways. If you want to be anonymous and share with us, go ahead and share with us. We want to know. And we thank you for listening to this episode of the Two Young Pastors podcast, Jajuan. It's always a pleasure, bro, to have it. Again, we're on pretty much all platforms now. You want to like, share, and subscribe to it so that we can continue to put out these episodes. If there's any topic that you want us to hit on, please let us know. We just love talking about what Christian spirituality looks like in our generation. And sometimes in our generation, you got to cut some people off for your peace of mind
Yeah.
following the process. So, Jawan, it's a privilege, man. Is there anything else you want to say before we end this episode?
Nah, man. See you next time. Make sure you share. If you were blessed by this in any way, share with a friend.
Yeah, yeah. All right, y'all. We'll catch you on the next episode. See y'all. Signing out.